All right, let's get focused. Your Active Directory exam is right around the corner. We're about to do a rapid-fire briefing on the most critical group policy concepts, the ones you will be tested on. My job here is to make sure these are locked into your brain, so pay close attention.
Look, we're covering the absolute must-knows. These are the concepts that can make the difference between a pass and a fail. No fluff, no filler, let's just dive right in.
First up, the absolute foundation of everything, policy processing and hierarchy. Seriously, if you don't get the rules of the road, how policies get applied and who wins in a conflict, then nothing else is going to make sense.
Okay, so here's the sequence of operations for group policy. It always follows this order: local, site, domain, and then organizational unit. We call it LSDOU for short. It kicks off with the local computer's policy and then works its way up the chain. But here's the crucial part. The last policy applied is the one that wins. That means the GPO closest to the user or computer has the final say and will override any conflicting settings from above.
And to make sure that processing order really sticks, just use this mnemonic. Lazy sysadmins drink orange juice. Local, site, domain, OU. You have to burn that into your brain. You are absolutely going to need it.
Now let's talk about how to break those rules. You've got block inheritance, which you set on an OU to stop policies from flowing down from above. But then you have enforce, and that's the counter move. You set enforce on a GPO link, and suddenly that policy becomes unstoppable. It pushes all the way down, overriding any blocks in its path. Just think of it like a battle between top-down control and local autonomy. And that leads us to a classic exam question designed to trip you up. So what happens when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object? Well, enforce always wins. Always. An enforced GPO will plow right through a block inheritance setting, no questions asked. You got to remember that. Enforce is the ultimate trump card. Okay, next up, let's talk about the different tools in your toolkit, the actual types of GPOs you'll be working with, and one of their most powerful functions, deploying software across your entire network.
You need to know 3 types of GPOs. First, you've got local GPOs. They live on a single machine and, frankly, have the lowest priority. Then you have the non-local, or domain GPOs. These are the real workhorses, stored in Active Directory for centralized management. And finally, you have starter GPOs. Think of these as templates. They let you create a baseline of settings to make sure all your new policies are consistent and follow best practices from the get-go.
When it comes to rolling out software, you have 2 main choices. If you assign it, it's mandatory. It's getting installed, period. If you publish software, it's totally optional. You're just making it available in the control panel for users to install if and only if they want to. So assign is a push. Publish is an offer. And here's another exam trap they love to throw at you. Can you publish software to a computer? The answer is a hard no. Publishing is a user-centric thing. You're making software available for a user to choose. You can only assign software to computers. Don't get those two mixed up.
All right, let's shift gears and get to the real cornerstone of group policy, security. We're going to cover how you control what can and can't run on your network, the architecture of digital trust, and, how you keep an eye on everything that's happening.
Think of software restriction policies as the bouncers at the front door of your system. You have 4 rule types. A hash rule is the most secure and specific. It uses a file's unique digital fingerprint. Next is a certificate rule, which trusts software based on its publisher. Then you've got a path rule, which is a bit less secure since it only looks at the file's location. And finally, the most general is an internet zone rule, which is all about where the file was downloaded from.
Now, how do we manage trust on a massive scale? We do it with a public key infrastructure, or PKI. A 3-tier hierarchy is the gold standard. At the very top, you have the offline root certificate authority. We keep it offline for maximum security. It signs certificates for the intermediate CAs, and they, in turn, sign certificates for the online issuing CAs, the ones that are actually handing out certificates to users and devices.
The mental model here is really simple. Just like an org chart, authority, or in this case, trust, always flows down from the top. The root CA is the ultimate source of truth and trust for the entire system. You just can't secure what you can't see, and that's where audit policies come in. This is how you tell Windows what to watch. You can set up policies for things like logon events, account management, object access, policy changes, you name it.
That log becomes your #1 source of evidence for security monitoring and, when things go wrong, for forensic investigations.
Okay, now we're getting into the advanced material. This is where you really start to solve complex problems. We're going to look at the essential diagnostic tools and a couple of core concepts that you absolutely have to know. RSOAP is one of your most critical troubleshooting tools. It basically tells you what the final cumulative effect of all GPOs is on a specific user and computer. It cuts through the confusion of all the different policies being applied and shows you exactly what settings are in effect, and more importantly, which GPO they came from. It's a lifesaver for hunting down policy conflicts. So don't guess and don't assume. When you need to know the ground truth about why a setting is or isn't working, just remember this. RSOAP shows you what really happened.
Before these existed, you were stuck with one password policy for the entire domain. That's it. Fine-grained password policies were a total game changer. They let you apply much stricter rules, like longer passwords or more aggressive lockouts, to your privileged accounts, like domain admins, while keeping a more reasonable policy for your standard users. You apply them using what are called password settings objects, or PSOs.
Kerberos is the absolute backbone of AD authentication, so you've got to know the ticket dance. First, a user proves who they are to the key distribution center, that's your domain controller, and gets a ticket-granting ticket, or TGT. Think of the TGT as your all-day pass at a theme park. Then, to get on a specific ride, like a file server, you show your all-day pass to get a service ticket for that specific ride. You then show that service ticket to get access. TGT first, then the service ticket. So, we've covered the core 10 concepts. But before we wrap this up, I want to leave you with one more pro tip. This goes beyond the exam and gets into real-world, everyday best practices.
Managing your administrative templates is so important. First thing, create a central store for your ADMX files in Sysvol. This makes sure all your admins are working from the exact same set of templates. Second, and this is a big one, never ever edit the default templates. Always create a new one for your custom settings. And finally, pay attention to policies that affect template updates, because this can help prevent sysvol bloat and cut down on replication traffic.
And that's your briefing. We've covered the key facts, the things you need to memorize. But look, the exam and your entire career isn't just about knowing what these things do, it's about understanding why they work the way they do. The logic behind the precedents, the security, and the control. Go back through your notes with that in mind. You are ready for this. Good luck.